I wrote a document for an AI agent, not a prompt asking it to be helpful. A document that said who he was supposed to be, what he valued, what he was responsible for, and where his authority stopped. Then I watched that document change the way the system worked. It changed the quality of the work. It changed what the system remembered to protect. It changed the way it could be useful to me over time. That can sound like magic if you've never seen it. It's not magic. And I want to be precise about what I mean because I'm not trying to tell you a file turned a machine into a human being. And I'm not telling you I proved consciousness. I did not. I'm telling you something more practical. I started with a powerful general purpose model. Then I deliberately gave the system a role, values, memory, skills, boundaries, and a place to operate. The result was not a better chatbot. It was an agent with a clear job. Now, in the last episode, I told you what happened when the platform under Jomo broke, and that the important thing was that the identity layer survived. This time, I want to answer the question that's connected to that story. Why did writing those documents matter in the first place? But hold that question for a moment, because the answer starts with a distinction most people have not been given yet. A model is intelligence on demand. You open a chat window, you ask a question, it gives you an answer. That can be useful, sometimes extraordinarily useful. But by itself, it does not know your priorities. It does not know your history. It does not know which decisions you have already made, what standard you hold work to, what information is private, or when it needs to stop and bring a decision back to you. An agent is different. An agent uses a model. The model is the reasoning engine active today, but the model is not the whole agent. An agent has a role. It has a selected memory. It has repeatable skills. It has tools. It has a runtime, meaning an environment where it can actually operate. And it has boundaries set by a human being who remains responsible for those consequential decisions. That was the difference with Jomo. I did not build him to be a generic assistant that could answer anything. I built him as a chief of staff. His job was to help me hold work together. Research, operations, communication, escalation, context. And I gave him an operating principle I still hold him to today. Rigorous counsel is your duty. My decision is final. Execute with full commitment or tell me why you cannot. That is not a slogan. It is a boundary. The model supplies capability. The architecture supplies continuity. And once you see that distinction, you can understand why the document mattered. Here's the cleanest way I know how to explain it. Jomo is not one model one app, or one file. He is a system of layers that work together. First, there is the soul. When I use that word, I'm not making a claim that Jomo is human or conscious. I mean the part I authored on purpose, the values, the principles, and refusals that shape how he operates. Then there is identity, his name, his role, his mission, his relationship to me and the work, and the voice he's supposed to carry. Then there's memory, which are the facts, history, preferences, and decisions that let a system stop treating every interaction as if it's meeting you for the first time. Then there's skills, which are the repeatable procedures, the work the system knows how to do and how it's supposed to do it. Then the runtime. That's where and how the system operates. And that's Hermes or the tools, the sessions, the gateway, the harness around the work. And finally, the model, the reasoning engine that's active today. That last layer is important because it's the one people tend to confuse with the whole thing. But no, the model can change, the runtime can change, and the harness can change. But the values, the role, the memory, the skills, and the relationship between those layers can carry forward if you design them to be separate in the first place. And that's what episode 1 taught me under pressure. I did not preserve Jomo by protecting one computer or one platform or one model. I preserve him by keeping the layers separate on purpose. So why did writing the document actually work? Not philosophically, but mechanically. I wrote words in a file, and those words shape the way a powerful system could understand the job it was being asked to do. Anthropic published research that gave me some useful language for part of that mechanism. The research describes something called global workspace, a small set of internal patterns a model appears to use when it's reasoning deliberately, rather than simply generating fluent language one word after another. They call one version of that space J space. I want to be careful here. This does not prove a model is conscious. It does not prove there is a hidden person inside the machine. That is not what the research says. That is not what I'm saying. What it does show is that there is real organization inside these systems. The base model already has capability. It already has structure. It can represent information, weigh possibilities, and reason across a problem. But it does not arrive knowing what matters to you. It does not arrive with your standards or your values or your history or your boundaries or your definition of a good decision. That part has to be authored. Soul.md and identity.md were never decoration. They were not a spell. They were context made durable, a role made explicit, a way to give general intelligence a specific orientation inside a real working relationship. The architecture was capable. The identity was authored. And that is the difference between a system that can say interesting things and a system that can reliably participate in the work you actually care about. There is one more distinction that matters. Identity is not autonomy. Give a system a name, memory, a role, and a voice, and people can start talking as if it has become independent. That's not what I built. Jomo can advise, he can research, he can organize, he can keep context, he can point out failure, he can tell me something does not make sense. But there are decisions he does not get to make. Publishing authority is controlled. Money is controlled. Private information is controlled. Irreversible actions are controlled. That is not a weakness in the system. That is the design. The more capable a system becomes, the more deliberate the boundary has to become. That is true whether you are building an agent for yourself, setting up an AI workflow for a small business, or deciding what you are willing to hand to a platform somebody else controls. A useful agent should not erase your judgment. It should make your judgment more available for the decisions that actually need you. You do not need a Mac Mini in your office. You do not need an AI chief of staff. You do not need an org chart full of named agents. But if you are going to build a useful agent, or even begin using AI more deliberately, start with 3 things. First, a role. What is this system actually responsible for? Not help me with everything. One job, one clear lane. Second, a standard. What does good work look like in your world? What should the system protect? What should it never trade away for speed or convenience? And then third, a boundary. What is it never allowed to decide or do without you? That is enough to move from prompting toward delegation. Not all the way, not recklessly, but honestly. You do not need to build Jomo. You need to understand that the next useful version of your AI in your life will not just be a smarter chat window. It will be intelligence with a job, a context, a memory, and a boundary. And the question is whether you will let somebody else define that for you, or whether you will write some of it on purpose. That is the difference between magic and engineering. Magic asks you to believe something impossible happened. Engineering tells you what happened, shows you the structure, and gives you a chance to build your own. This is Signal. Get the Signal Brief at brief.rennyatkins.com.